Happy Saturday, everybody. What is going on? And welcome into the divisional round playoff betting show powered by FTN. Chris Meaney, Matthew Freedman, and Eliot Crist here with you. Going to break down our favorite bets of the weekend. We have some spreads, we have some totals, we have some props. We're going to get some specials out of Eliot here today. He is rocking the Kansas City Red, looking pretty sharp there in the Travis Kelce. I'm not going to lie. Freedman made me change my FTN hat. I'm telling everybody here. He made me go do it. These guys wanted me to rock this Eagles hat because they wanted me to feel it from last week. And Jalen Hurts looking like a below average quarterback. Jokes aside, we're ready to have some fun here with you guys today on this show, hanging out with us live. Smash the like button. You have any questions, any comments? Leave them there in the YouTube section. We still have a couple hours before the first game gets underway. And if you are part of the FTN fam, you know that we're pretty active in the Discord channel if you do have any questions. And if you are looking to be part of the FTN family, ftnbets.com/pricing. Use the promo code FTNTV. Save yourself a bit of cash. We'll be giving NFL picks, of course, until that Super Bowl is raised. But with that package, you get all the bets, all the picks, Jeff Ratcliffe's projections, and all the access to all of the Discord channels as well. Eliot, we'll start with you first. We'll go to Freeman for his pick, but I have a feeling you're feeling the Chiefs here today. You're a little Kansas City Red this weekend.
I mean, my game pick is actually not the Chiefs, to be honest. I just I bought red shoes and I threw them on. And I was like, how do I match these? Not that anyone can see my shoes, but I feel like $1 million in my outfit, so here I am. I'm actually gonna go with the Tennessee Titans -3.5. Mike Vrabel, probably gonna be coach of the year this year, but he's dominated with extra rest in his career as the Tennessee Titans head coach. They're 8-0 against the spread and 8-0 straight up when they've had extra rest. Now, this includes Thursday Night Football, whatever it be, right? Obviously, coming off the bye week. I think the Titans have a major advantage in the trenches on both the D-line and the O-line. A lot of people look at this Titans team all year when Derrick Henry got hurt, A.J. Brown was in and out, Julio Jones has been in and out, and they've said, there's not really any star players. I don't really think this team's any good, but Jeffrey Simmons and that defensive line should dominate the Bengals up front. Larry Ogunjobi, while he's not the best run defender, he's going to be missing this game. And one of the things the Bengals really like to do is they like to rotate their defensive linemen a lot. B.J. Hill, DJ Reader, they're still going to be in there, but they're not going to be as fresh. And, who's back? I can't do Irish accents. Frankly, I can't do any accents. But today is a major UFC fight. Shout out to John Kelly and Jonah, who've just been crushing coverage for that, where the baddest man on the planet, the heavyweight champion, is going to be crowned. And the reason I say that is because Conor McGregor's he likes to yell, the king is back. But for the football world, the king is back today, and it's Derrick Henry. And the Tennessee Titans have been a different offense with him, averaging 7 more points per game, averaging nearly a full touchdown more per game, like actual scores of touchdowns. They're averaging 28 points per game with him, 21 without him, but 3.25 touchdowns with him. This offense now has Julio Jones, who's healthier than he's been all year long, A.J. Brown, who's fully healthy. Going up against a Bengals team, now this is kind of like an old school way to bet, but I'm actually worried a little bit about an emotional letdown early in this game because the Bengals just won their first game in 31 years in the playoffs. Their fan base going nuts, the Bengals going nuts. And I think there's an opportunity for them to start a little bit slow. And I think that the Titans are going to feed Derrick Henry. I think they're ultimately going to win this game in the trenches on both sides of the ball. Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase are phenomenal. More on Jamar Chase in a little bit, but I feel really good about the Titans -3.5 in this game.
How many carries do we think Derrick Henry is going to get today? And the guy is going to have a metal plate in his foot. I don't know if that makes him harder to take down, but that is something to consider as well. What do you think, Eliot? What do you think? How many carries does Henry get today?
I would say 23 plus. I took his over 78.5 rushing yards yesterday. I think that's already up to 85, 86 certain places. Oftentimes we worry about running backs getting eased back in. NFL teams have kind of shown that when they play a running back, it's kind of good to go. They're not really out there to be distractions or whatever. I fully anticipate this is the Derrick Henry show. I kind of wish he had a metal plate in his hand instead of his foot because then it would be an advantage with the way he stiff arms. And then it's go gadget, just smacking the hell out of people. But I anticipate a full Derrick Henry workload, right? This has always been the goal. This is what he's rehabbed for. We know he's a workout warrior. He's been cleared. He's been practicing this week. They've been getting hits on him to make him feel comfortable. There's really no reason to hold back. The only reason they would hold back, I would say, is if they're up 17 points in the fourth quarter, maybe Foreman gets more looks than he would in other situations. But that's about it for me.
Sure. Yeah, I would agree with that too. I think he probably, he definitely flirts with 20 carries, and his rushing yard prop opened up, I believe, at 76.5, 77.5, which is it's crazy. Just crazy low for a guy in his potential, right? What he can do to break one. And I'm seeing right now live at 85.5. Just one more thing I wanted to add to that, and we'll throw to you, Freedman. I want to get your thoughts on Henry as well. Is we only have a 5-game sample of the big three. And yes, I'm calling Julio Jones part of the big three with AJ Brown and Derrick Henry, but 4-1 on the season with those three. They beat Kansas City, they beat Buffalo, they beat Indianapolis. In those 5 games with those three, Ryan Tannehill, 9.4 yards per pass attempt. Joe Burrow led the league, 8.9, and they had 6.6 yards per play, Tennessee, in those 5 games. San Fran led the league, 6.1. So, again, a very small sample size, not saying that if they had all three all year, Tannehill would lead the league. But we have seen Tannehill lead the league before with just 2 of those 3 in that category. And then overall on the season with the Titans, 5.1 yards per attempt. That was 22nd in football. And Tannehill, 7.0 yards per pass attempt, 19th in football. So it's no doubt this is a big boost to have Derrick Henry back in that offense. Eliot, what do you got?
I was just going to say first, I almost feel like you just described why the Titans are going to cover better than I did, because you are, well-deserved host up for show of the year with Mean Streets. Congratulations on that as well. If you don't win, then people don't know what they're watching. But I do want to point out one other very fun fact about this game. While both the Bengals and the Titans beat the Chiefs, do you know the team that beat both these teams this year?
The Jets.
It is the New York Jets. So I'm just saying that it's not this year, but in the next 30 years, we will be back in the playoffs, baby. We're on our way. Go ahead, Freedman.
Oh, baby. Yeah, take it away, Freedman.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have much to say on this game. You guys covered it really well. I happen to be taking the other side of this, but I do think that this could be a close game. And Derrick Henry, I mean, like, I feel dirty anytime I would think about creating a projection for a player in terms of rushing carries, like any more than like 19.5. Like, if you just put a 2 in front of a number, it just feels wrong. But with Derrick Henry, it's basically like automatic. He's like the exception to the rule. So yeah, I mean, Derrick Henry, if you had to set a line on his rushing prop for carries, I mean, 19.5 is sort of like the conservative line, but I still feel like 19.5 and you go over. He smashes any line that you set for him.
Yeah, Jeff Ratcliffe has him for 19 and 86, and we all know that Ratcliffe is not only sharp, the number 1 ranker in the biz, but also pretty conservative with some of his projections as well, and he'll tell you that. So, Freedman, we'll go to you. What do you got for us? What's your favorite pick for the divisional round weekend here?
Man, I'm very conflicted on this. I like the Packers at -5.5 going against the 49ers. Now, I will say, like, almost every sharp bettor I know is on the 49ers this weekend. And it's like, it's a sharp, it's to the point to where it's like so consensus-y sharp that this makes me feel like this is one of those spots that happens like a few times a year where too many sharps are on one side and the square side is the right side. And I think that's what this is. Like, the 49ers, they looked good. They looked great against the Cowboys on Super Wildcard weekend, like, setting aside the Galaxy brain Shanahan decisions. But like, in terms of the plays that they were running, they looked good against the Cowboys. And the injury concerns that they had exiting that game, all of those have dissipated. Quarterback Jimmy Garoppolo, linebacker Fred Warner, edge rusher Nick Bosa, all of those guys practiced fully on Thursday. They are all playing tonight. And, we've talked about it. As bad as Kyle Shanahan is at home as a favorite, he's pretty darn good on the road as an underdog. 10-3 against the spread as a road dog with Garoppolo as his quarterback. And, the 49ers, they're tempting. It would not surprise me if they won outright. The Packers are number 30 in defensive rush EPA and rush success rate. And I am legit worried that the path for the 49ers winning this game is them running all over the Packers, just as they did 2 years ago in the playoffs. But the Packers, they're fully rested. We have the 49ers on short rest going from Sunday to Saturday. And for his career, Rodgers, off of the bye, is 12-5-1 against the spread. On top of that, the Packers are also healthy. This is maybe the healthiest that they have been all year. We have left tackle David Bakhtiari. He's dealing with a knee injury. He didn't practice on Thursday, but I am expecting that he is going to play. We have the expected return of cornerback Jair Alexander, edge rusher Zadarius Smith, wide receiver Randall Cobb. Like, this is a good setup for the Packers, for them having basically their full team minus Marquez Valdez-Scantling, but I really don't think that matters all that much. And then finally, it's like the refrain, Aaron Rodgers at home. He's a very nice 69, 37, and 4 against the spread for his career at Lambeau Field. This year, 7-1 against the spread at Lambeau. Only once in his career has he been sub 500 against the spread at home. And that was his first season as a starter in 2008. Like, Rodgers at home crushes. Rodgers off a bye crushes. I know the 49ers looked great, but I mean, I feel like there's some recency bias that is kind of creeping in. Jimmy Garoppolo. Like, I don't want to overthink this. Jimmy Garoppolo versus Aaron Rodgers. Like, I'm going to take Rodgers if he's at home and he's getting less than a touchdown.
Yeah, you make me feel like the whole time you're talking about Rodgers and being at home, my stomach is turning because I already bet San Fran at +6, and I'm gonna be honest, it's not an easy feeling to bet against Aaron Rodgers at home after a bye, right? We have a long history, and even just recently of teams in the NFC and AFC 7-2 over the last 3 years, just out of the bye, right? That first playoff game, you have it at home, a cover in spreads. You brought up a lot of good points about why you should back the Packers. I don't really have a lot of pushback. My favorite pick is not San Fran +6, but I do think, and what you said, you were kind of alluding to it with the rush defense. Can we all agree that the one weakness that Green Bay has is stopping the run, right? And one thing that San Fran does really well is running the rock. And when they played earlier in the year, Freedman, one of your favorite players, and I'm just assuming it's one of your favorite players, Deebo Samuel. Like, that guy wasn't getting carries out of the backfield when those two teams met in, week 3?
Yeah, and I will say, this isn't a bet that we're covering on the show, but Deebo Samuel, long odds to lead the week in rushing. I know that sounds crazy, but like, he's got a shot. Like, I think he's got a better shot than people think. He was number 5 last week in terms of overall rushing. If he gets 10 carries, breaks one of them long, like, you could see how it happens. And like, I'm not going to tell you how long the odds are, which book, but like, you might want to think about that.
That's an Eliot Crist special. I think he's over there searching it right now. What do I got here? I think he is, yes. I think that San Fran could do a good job running the rock, but at the end of the day, I do believe Aaron Rodgers will be the reason that they win this football game, and Jimmy Garoppolo will be the reason that they lose it. And we almost saw that last week if it wasn't for the debacle from the Cowboys towards the end of that game. My favorite bet is a prop here, and it's Gabriel Davis. I know, right? I'm coming in here with Gabriel Davis here, over 35.5 receiving yards. This is what we're doing. I gave this on Mean Streets on Friday at 30.5. I'm seeing it now at FanDuel at 35.5. I bet it as high as 40.5. Other books have it at 37.5. You know, I really like this guy, Gabriel Davis. He trended up towards the end of last season, and they got Emmanuel Sanders, and it was slow going for him, and Sanders is back in the lineup. But over the last couple of weeks, Gabriel Davis has been, I don't want to say a huge part of this offense because he's not a guy that gets 6 or 7 targets. He's not going to be a guy that catches 5 or 6 balls here today or this weekend. It could be only 3 grabs, but he has at least 39 yards in 6 of his past 7 games. He's averaging 46.4 receiving yards over that span. The one game that he didn't top this number was that win bowl game against the Pats, where really not a lot happened, and he still had 30 yards in that contest. He's got the 13.3 ADOT this season, which is number 1 on the Bills team since week 13, using some of our free tools, air yards, where you can see ADOT and target share. 28% of his team's air yards and a 19% target share. Again, I know that Emmanuel Sanders wasn't around and he wasn't healthy towards the end of the season, but Josh Allen seems to just take shots with Gabriel Davis down the field. End zone targets seem to be there with him. He's got 5 touchdowns in his last 6 games. I think he has a decent day today. I like him on DraftKings as well. I think he can find the end zone. I know the guys liked him on Touchdown Town. Joe Gallant and Brendan Deeg were talking him up a little bit as well. So that is what I'm leading here. A shootout as well, right? We have a 54-point total between these two teams, and both quarterbacks can light it up through the air. So if we do get that shootout, a little bit of back and forth, I think we could see Gabriel Davis go there. We did kind of go out of order. I was going to leave with Freedman. I did throw to Eliot Crist, so we'll keep this order here. Eliot, what do you got for pick number 2?
So first, I'll talk about Jamar Chase and why I like his over 76.5. But first, Freeman finding Deebo Samuel at 25-1 to lead the day in rushing, love it. Second, I think the fact that Freeman can throw in that Aaron Rodgers has 69 wins against the spread at home and say it very nice and just do it so casually, no smile on his face, no anything. We just have to compliment your professionalism, sir. You are incredible in this space at making 69 jokes and making them fly under the radar. But I love Jamar Chase over 76.5. He's crushed this number the last 3 games going over. And when I say 3 games, I'm not including the season finale where they basically played him 3 snaps to make sure he got the rookie record and took it off. Yeah. So if you want to fact check me and say, well, it wasn't 3 straight, cool, thank you. But he's been dominating target share too, right? He's seen 25% of targets in those last 3 games. T. Higgins is down to 17. We really saw last week too against the Raiders. He is Joe Burrow's guy. We knew that going into the season. But one of the things that I love is that he crushes go routes. Go routes account for about 24% of his routes this season, and the Titans are bottom 7 in the league covering go routes, and their biggest weakness is the deep ball. And we know that he's going to dominate. He's seen 26 deep targets, far and away the most on the team this season. That is his role. I think we see heavy volume and big playability out of him, and that's where you attack this Titans team is down the field. I also like the Titans to win this game. I think the Bengals are going to have to throw a lot, and their dominant run defense. I don't think this is a Joe Mixon game, and if the Bengals try to insist on it being a Joe Mixon game, I think that's a great way for them to get blown out. So I really like that Jamar Chase is going to be fed a lot. I expect double-digit targets and expect him to sail over 76.5 yards.
Man, the chemistry between those two is it's unbelievable, man. Just watching them, it just looks like Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams, and it's year 1 in the NFL. I know they played a little bit together in college, but it is year 1 in the NFL. It is so awesome to see, and right away you saw it against the Raiders, just Jamar Chase, and nobody had an answer for him. I love that bet, and overall, the Titans have allowed the 2nd most receptions and receiving yards to the wide receiver position. Freedman, we'll go over to you. What do you got for us?
Well, you mentioned Gabriel Davis, the over there, and that makes me think of the Bills. I like them in this game going against the Chiefs. I bet them first at 2.5. I put them in the outline here at 2. That number is dropped to 1.5. I would still bet that. For me, that would be the limit. I think they have a good chance of winning this game, but I just wouldn't bet it any lower than 1.5. But I still like it at this number. And I mean, man, it's not just Gabriel Davis. It's Isaiah McKenzie. They might have the best quintet of wide receivers in the league. They run legitimately 5 deep at that position, where it's at the point where Emmanuel Sanders, Cole Beasley, those guys could easily be replaced by the 2 guys on the depth chart behind them. And I don't know if the Bills would miss them at all. So I'm really impressed with what they're doing on offense. And we saw it last weekend where they had the first quote unquote perfect game ever in NFL history. And quarterback Josh Allen, he was otherworldly in that game. 21 of 25 passing, 308 yards, 5 touchdowns, and 66 yards on the ground on 6 carries. And in week 5, he was near perfect. 315 yards, 3 touchdowns passing, 59 yards, another touchdown on the ground against the Chiefs in an emphatic 38-20 road win. And on defense, I mean, the Bills are number 2 overall in EPA per play. They have the best combination of offense and defense of any team left in the playoffs. Allen is 10-5-2 against the spread as a road underdog. And the Chiefs, since last year, have been really mediocre against the spread. It's as if the market has kind of figured them out. Patrick Mahomes at home against the spread since last year is 9-10, right? There's no edge really to be gained in the betting market with the Chiefs. And all year, I mean, I know the Chiefs, their record overall, 12-5, looks decent, but they've been on the brink. And they went on that run in the second half of the year, but a lot of their games have been against subpar opponents. They've played 3 games against teams that made it to the divisional round. They were favored in all of those games. they lost all of those games. 38-20 to the Bills in week 5, 27-3 to the Titans in week 7, and 34-31 to the Bengals in week 17. Like, if they were a college team, you would say that like they don't have the requisite number of quality wins on their resume to be judged in a favorable way by the playoff committee. You know what? Actually, my mistake. I forgot that they played the Packers, the Jordan Love Packers, and they won just 13-7. Like, they have some of the best players in the league, but there's something about them this year where it just feels like they are more mortal now than they have been at any point up to this point. And the Bills, they were built to beat the Chiefs. So, I mean, I feel nervous betting against Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs, but I just think that this is, I won't want to say like a Bills team of destiny or anything like that, but it's just a Bills team that has everything put together and a Chiefs team that just hasn't been able to perform against teams that have caught up to their level.
It's another one, just hearing you talk it out. I'm with you on the Bills. I think it's Josh Allen's time. I think we've seen some progress over the past couple of years. His first playoff game against the Texans, he looked awful, right? He made a lot of mistakes, and then the next year against the Colts, I saw some improvement, but even still, I saw some mistakes. I thought they just squeaked by at home against Indianapolis, and then they lost that Chiefs game and got smacked. And I just think what you had said, everything that they've done over the past couple of years is just trying to build a roster to beat this Chiefs team. Now, everybody should feel a little uneasy if you're going to put your hard-earned bucks against Patrick Mahomes and company. There's no question, right? He's unbelievable. I don't know, like, Eliot, what do you think about Tyreek Hill? Is this guy 100%? Are they hiding something? Like, he needs to be a big factor for them this weekend to win that game. I'm not breaking any news here, but they need Tyreek Hill to be even just 85% of the Tyreek Hill we saw before this foot injury popped up. What do you think about this game?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how much they needed of Hill last week, right? He did catch that 29-yard pass. He looked pretty sweet with the pom-poms in his hand. He looked like his same fast self. They looked like they were trying to get everyone involved. And yet again, Travis Kelce had 100 yards in the playoffs. I think the big question about the Chiefs, if you're looking to back the Chiefs, other than, you know, Eliot has amazing red shoes, is I think that the two things you want to look at, one is that the Bills also beat up on a lot of really bad teams to inflate some of their numbers on the defensive side of the ball. I think they're a top 5 defense. I don't necessarily think they're the best defense in football. I think that Josh Allen, while we saw his peak, and I know that I'm a supposed Josh Allen hater. I did not like him coming out of the draft. I think that he has played at MVP levels this year, and we saw as good of a performance as we saw last year. Or the entire year last game, obviously, right? They set a record. But Josh Allen has still gone through peaks and valleys this year a lot. Like, there are still a lot of bad moments with Josh Allen. And the big question for me with the Chiefs is, and this is more of an NBA thing, but like the Chiefs have been so good for so long, is like, is there a switch that they can just flip?
Yeah.
That's the big thing, right? They've got Andy Reid. They've got one of the best play callers. They've got arguably the most talented quarterback. They've probably got the best combo of playmakers. They've got a ton of speed. And ever since they moved Chris Jones back inside, they've been getting a lot of interior pressure, and they've been playing great defense. So the question is there a switch they can flip? And frankly, I don't think anyone knows the answer. I also think we're looking at a Bills team that's coming off a historical performance, beating the Patriots at home in front of Bills Mafia in an emotional game. You know, they're throwing things on the field that people should not throw in the field. See, there's another nice joke. I just think like that's kind of the story you're telling if you're building the Chiefs. Like, that was peak Bills. Are we betting them at their highest price? And, you know, before that game, would we be looking at a 3 or 3.5 game? Because the Chiefs offense also looked phenomenal against the Steelers. It took a quarter to get going, and then they flipped the switch, and then it was like, oh, there they are. There's everyone that we thought of. So I would say that's the counter argument. I don't have a strong lean either way. I know I look ridiculous saying that in my Chiefs gear, but yeah, I would say that's the counter argument.
Yeah,
I think Brooke Cromer is just wearing off on you with the shoe collection and the colors there. Go ahead.
That's true. Meaney, to your question about Tyreek Hill, he practiced in full all week. Like, I'm not really worried about the foot injury with Tyreek Hill. I mean, the question is, like, he's so volatile, right? Like, is this a Tyreek Hill game or not? But in terms of his health, I think he's full go.
Well, the Bills have had no answer for him or Kelce over the past couple of years. I mean, Eliot touched on it. Last week was a blowout. The couple of weeks even before that, when nobody really heard about the foot injury, I think he maybe suffered or tweaked it. I believe in warmups, and then was like, "Where's Tyreek Hill on the field? Where is he?" And then they didn't really need him, right? There's no point to roll him out there. I do agree with Eliot on the defense and Josh Allen, maybe some inexperience and not being consistent enough. Not inexperience, just consistent enough. And the defense, they played 3 quarterbacks this year that have had over 250 passing yards. I think I brought this up last week with you guys. One is Mahomes, the other is Brady, and that other one would be Mike White. And even in that game, he had 4 interceptions. It's not like he had a
Jets
great
are getting
game.
all
so
kinds of
the Jets are
mentions on this
getting
show.
more mentions than they probably should. There's no question. Just quickly, I want to know, just gut instinct. It's not one of our favorite bets. Total. Is this a shootout game? Is this over? Like 54 is pretty high, but if you were to pick a side on this, Freeman, would you go lots of points?
Yeah, I think so. And you mentioned again Gabriel Davis earlier, and I put him in our free FTN Daily pick tracker for Prize Picks. I put over Gabriel Davis, over Byron Pringle, and the philosophy behind that really is just like, hey, I think this game shoots out. I know 54.5 is a high number, especially in the colder weather. In Kansas City, that's a hard place to play at Arrowhead, but I do think this is basically just like punch for punch, 2 heavyweights going at it, giving it everything. And I think that means like all of the players end up having games that exceed expectations.
I'm glad you dropped the pick tracker. We really should be giving some love to the pick tracker and Prize Picks and some of the, I'll be honest, like some soft odds over there. We're talking about Gabriel Davis over 35.5. I'm 27.5 over at Prize
Oh,
Picks.
yeah.
I mean, there's a lot, like some of these odds and props we're talking about, they're 5 to 6, 7 yards fewer over at Prize Picks across the board. We all have some picks over there. You can use the promo code FTN. If you're a first-time user at Prize Picks, they'll match your first deposit 100% up to $100 when you use the promo code FTN. And you don't got to go perfect. You can pick 4 entries. You go 3 for 4, save yourself a little bit, put a unit on that, pays out 4 to 1, and away you go. But there really is an advantage. You can use Jeff Ratcliffe's Prize Picks Edge tool to find that advantage as well over at FTNDaily.com. All right, we'll keep things going here. I like Joe Mixon. I like a lot of things that you said, Eliot, about this Titans and Bengals game. I think that they will be trailing, playing from behind. But Mixon has been more involved through the air recently. He started off the season that way as well, and then there was a bit of a lull where he wasn't getting a lot of targets out of the backfield. But over the last 3 games, he has 19 targets, 17 grabs, and 138 yards. So I'm taking the over 19.5 receiving yards. I'm seeing this number in some spots at 21.5. We got Ratcliffe has him for 23 yards here. So I even like the over 3.5 catches at plus 154 over at FanDuel. 5 targets, 4 grabs, and 28 receiving yards last week as well. This is playoff time. There's no reason for a guy like Chris Evans to be on the field. There's no reason for a guy like Samaje Perine to get multiple snaps here. This should be Mixon. I do agree. I don't think that they will have success just handing it off to him 20 times. But maybe a couple dump offs here. We could get it early. If you were on this last week, you got it pretty early against the Raiders, and they didn't trail at all in that game. So we'll go to you, Eliot. Finish this off, I guess, with number 3 pick for you.
Yeah, I'm going to stick with a theme that we talked about a lot last week, which is quarterback rushing total overs. And I like Patrick Mahomes over 24.5. It wasn't an official play last week when we talked about it 18.5, but I think every one of us said we really liked it. And I think it hit early second quarter. Mahomes has shown a propensity to run a lot more in the playoffs. He's not scared to use his legs. I think both quarterbacks are going to go over their rushing totals in this game. The Bills last week, they give up 18 scramble yards to Mac Jones. And now that might not sound like a lot, but Mac Jones is not a guy who scrambles ever. And, the Bills allowed the 13th most scrambled yards in all of football last year. The first time they played Mahomes, we're looking at 61 yards on 8 carries for Mahomes. And, he's hit this number in 4 of his last 5 games. We're just seeing him take off with his legs more. He is a good athlete. He's willing to take those chances. This is a bet that as long as the Chiefs make the playoffs until this goes over 30, you're going to just see me bet this every single time. And on the other side is a bonus play. I love Josh Allen to go over 49.5 rushing yards again. They're going to use his legs. They're going to have design runs. And anytime he breaks the pocket, he's a candidate to break a 20-yard run. So I love both quarterback rushing props in this one.
I love both of those as well. Yeah, you're right. We alluded to it last week. We talked about Dak Prescott, for example, at 7.5. We threw that out and as one that he hit as well. The one that was puzzling last week was Kyler Murray, 2 attempts for 6 yards, and Matthew Stafford, 6 for 22 and a rushing touchdown. Okay. Well, all right. But we did talk about quarterbacks running a little bit more. We did see it from Stafford. Freedman, finish this off here. What do you got?
All right, this might be the most degenerate bet that I have talked about on the history of our time together. Matt Gay over 1.5 field goals in this game. Rams at Buccaneers. I mean, I don't know. Maybe this isn't the most degenerate one. I mean, I've talked
No,
about like
not even
going
close.
under on the tight end receiving prop, but I mean, field goals. Like when we're talking about field goals, it's like okay, we're diving fairly deep on this, but I mean, head coach Sean McVay is an extremely conservative situational play caller. We've seen that throughout his time in the NFL, going back to when he had Greg Zuerlein as his kicker, and it felt like Zuerlein was a Pro Bowler every year just because he would get a ton of field goal opportunities. We see that this year with Matt Gay. Pro Bowl kicker. He's gone over 1.5 field goals in 13 of 18 games this year. I just think that we're going to see McVay be a little more conservative than he probably should be, on 4th and 1s, instead of going for it, just taking the points, instead of being aggressive closer to the end zone, just taking the points. So I think Gay has a pretty good chance here of going over 1.5 field goals, and not as if this matters at all when we're talking about normal players, but it especially doesn't matter when we're talking about a kicker, but I'm going to mention it anyway. This is a hashtag revenge game for Matt Gay going against the Buccaneers. So he's going to be all the more motivated to get over this line of 1.5 field goals.
Oh baby, no, it's not the craziest bet that you've come in here with, the most unexpected. It's not. It's just it just isn't. But I love every bit of it, Eliot.
Listen, the fact that we're talking kickers, I don't know if I love that aspect of it, but I love the sharp angle, and I love that we just brought up a kicker revenge game. As if Matt Gay is going to be like, I would miss this field goal from 40 yards, but now that I used to play on the Bucs, I know this is my moment.
Yeah.
I told you guys before we got on, last weekend was the first time I ever took a field goal prop in a game. It was 3.5 field goals in the Raiders and the Bengals at plus, I think it was maybe plus 130 or something like that, and got it pretty easily. Maybe 3 minutes into the second quarter. We didn't really talk about that game. I'll just say it's not one of my favorite bets, but I do have this in the bet tracker. I think the Rams on the money line. I think they go in and they beat the GOAT. I think they beat Tom Brady. I have some concerns about the offensive line and the pressure that the Rams can dial up. I do believe that they'll go in and beat Tom Brady, and I don't think you need to take the +3. I think you could take them on the money line. We'll see. Allen Lazard for me, the last one here. Lazard, I like him to find the end zone. I like him to have a decent day here. We talked about just both of these teams and their strengths and some of their weaknesses. And one thing San Fran does really well is stop the run. They're one of the better teams in the NFL in stopping the run. I don't know how much success Green Bay will have with Jones and Dillon. I don't think they're going to just completely abandon the run, but I think Rodgers is going to be able to carve up this secondary. And it's not just going to be Adams. One thing I like about San Fran and certain teams is that they can bring some pressure with 4, and San Fran can't do that. I'm sure they're going to try to take away Adams, try to limit him as much as you can. I mean, I think he's one of the best. We all know that he's one of the best, but could blanket him a little bit. It could leave some soft coverage for Allen Lazard. Over 39.5 receiving yards, 17 targets, 13 catches, and 192 yards over his last 3 games. I think he finds the end zone as well. He's kind of just been the number 2 over the past few weeks. There's no MVS, no Randall Cobb is coming back. He hasn't played in a long time. He's probably going to be limited here a little bit, but 5 touchdowns in his last 5 games for Allen Lazard. The Niners have the NFL's 7th ranked pass defense this season, only surrendering 227.9 yards per game through the air. But this is Aaron Rodgers at home. I think his passing yard prop at 266, 265 is a little low as well. So Allen Lazard, and you know what, guys? I may even take over 3.5 catches at plus money. Why not? But I think the receiving yards is the way to go. We must have some sort of special here, some sort of same game parlay that we can wrap up the show with, Eliot.
I love that we're closing out an amazing divisional round. Like, I think you could make an argument that 3 of these games, obviously these teams couldn't play each other, but if this was the Super Bowl matchup between the Chiefs or the Bills or the 49ers and the Packers or the Rams and the Bucs, we'd be talking about, like, we crushed it. This is an amazing Super Bowl we're all excited about. And we're closing out the show on Allen Lazard and Matt Gay. I think that is a true gambler mentality right there, just trying to find the edge, and I love it. So I'm going to talk about something that's 19-1. And we might have to go on a time machine for this one to hit, but Julio Jones over 100 yards and to score a touchdown is 19-1. Now, he played 3 games where he played 66% or more of the snaps with Derrick Henry. In those games, He saw 32% of the team's air yards, 19% target share, averaged 72 yards per game. I think that he's as healthy as he's been since the beginning of the season. He is still that freak athlete. He's still that big play guy. Now, ultimately, getting him a touchdown, as everyone knows, with never Julio, always fade Julio, can be a tricky thing for that man. But I do think that he's got an opportunity to have a big game. Veteran player in the playoffs. This is why they got him. They're probably going to load up the box a little bit on Derrick Henry, especially if he's got some success early and he can hit him up with a big play over the top. And frankly, 19-1 for Julio Jones with 100 yards and a touchdown. But those odds just seem too long. I would have lined it closer to like 10 or 12-1.
And it would be fitting for him to go off in the playoffs, wouldn't it? Right? For everyone that's like, Julio Jones, are you kidding? I bet that guy all year. I had him in my season-long league. I didn't get anything from him. Hit over 100 yards in week 2. Here we go, Julio Jones. I didn't sell high. I rode with him, and then nothing. And then he gets a touchdown in week 18.
He did score a touchdown that didn't count in that Seahawks game. I want to point that out. I don't know if people remember that. They did the review, and there was a sliver of green.
Right.
And then they did not count it. So he did have one game this year with over 100 yards and a touchdown. Unfortunately, that if you bet him to score a touchdown, he didn't. So obviously the counterpoint is he didn't, but he did.
Freeman, any final words?
Yeah, I mean, to Eliot's point, historically, I mean, it's a different team now, but Julio's smash spot has been as a home favorite historically. And so that does align in this instance. It wouldn't be surprising to see Julio go off. That doesn't mean he's going to score a touchdown, as we know, but
226 yards, 0 touchdown.
Yeah, but I think get tackled at the 1 yard line multiple times, so Derrick Henry can get his touchdowns. But it feels like a spot where I think Julio Jones has been disrespected too much. We look back at what he did last year. He was injured a lot, but when he was healthy, he was dominant. And this year, he's been inconsistent in and out of the lineup, but he still, on a per target basis, has been a really explosive player. So I like what Eliot, like the mindset that Eliot has here. Like, I don't know if I would bet this, but like, I do think that in general, Julio Jones is underappreciated still within the league.
Yeah, and again, it's a very small sample size, but in the 5 games that this trio played together, they moved the ball pretty well. And Ryan Tannehill looked really well throwing the football. And if you look overall at his numbers, he didn't have that great of a season, right? So to have King Henry back, and for teams like, stacking the box, I think that's going to be the game plan as well, Eliot, to stack the box, leave some one-on-one coverage for those 2 wide receivers who can absolutely bring it. All right, guys, it was fun. Always a pleasure. Good luck to everybody out there this weekend with all your picks. We got some DFS content. We got some betting content. We have absolutely everything over at FTN for you guys to check out. Thanks for taking the time to hang out with us, and we'll talk to you next week. Cheers.